Hey, 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 gang. How is everybody doing? Happy Thursday. Hope everyone is having a phenomenal week. We are at Friday Eve, so we are so close to the weekend. Hang tight, everybody. We are almost there. I know this week has felt really dragged out for me. I don't know if any of you feel the same way, but certainly am ready to get a jump on the weekend, especially because my sister is coming to visit me this weekend. She and her boyfriend are coming to spend a couple of days in Miami, which I'm super pumped about. Hopefully the weather holds out. It is like dumping rain and not so fun outside right now, but fingers crossed that by the time they get here, everything is phenomenal. We are live across platforms just like we are every afternoon on YouTube, on Rumble, on Locals, on Getter, and on Facebook. You guys, I am so glad that you are here. Drop us a little hello in the live chat and let us know where you're watching from. I know there's a lot of new viewers tuning into the stream in the last several weeks on every single platform, so I am so glad that each and every one of you are here. Boy, is it a great week. We've had a lot of fun on the stream. in the last couple of days. Today, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about the viral story of the Kappa Kappa Gamma chapter at the University of Wyoming suing the national organization over a trans sorority sister, sibling, brother. I'm not exactly sure how to label this situation. Moving into the house and making the sisters feel very uncomfortable in the sorority. We'll provide some commentary on sororities at large because I was not in a sorority. I was a proud GDI, goddamn independent, as we all like to say. And we'll just talk about generally sorority culture in 2023 in America and how things will be predicted to be changing because of the rise of the transgender movement within my generation. And then we'll do a fun little post-stream Q&A like we do every day over in our locals community. Tomorrow, we've got a lot to talk about with Montana becoming the first state to ban TikTok. They have led the charge and have officially banned the entire app across the state. It's yet to take into effect, but certainly will open up a whole new can of worms and conversation for how we are going to handle social media and the app TikTok in and of itself. Why I personally don't agree with that decision, we will break down tomorrow on the stream, tomorrow afternoon. Plus, a study has come out proving that lab-grown meat is not as good for the environment as actual meat. Shocking. I know. Could have told you that 10 years ago, but it's fine. We'll break that down for fun on the stream tomorrow and have a little bit of other fun as well with some surprise situations on the stream. But today, the Wyoming story. I want to say hi to those of you who are in the live chat already. Don't forget, you can use the chat throughout the stream to talk about what we're talking about, agree with what I'm saying, disagree with what I'm saying, etc. And right away at the beginning of the stream, I want to know from each and every one of you who are watching who you want to see as a guest on this stream about any subject under the sun. It could be about dating, it could be about faith, it could be about politics, it could be about TikTok or movies or literally anything else that you guys want to talk about. If you have a guest that you think would be interesting to have featured on our stream as a guest to come hang out with us in the next couple of weeks, we are booking for June right now with all of our stream guests and would love to hear from you who you want to see featured. So drop all of your guest suggestions in the chat. Dutch Canadian is watching from the Netherlands. So cool. Glad you're here. Victoria is watching on YouTube. Shaq is watching also in the Netherlands on Rumble. Dang, you guys are all tuning in from the Netherlands. That's exciting. Leon and Victoria are watching on YouTube. Estefan is watching on Getter. We've got Alex, African Warlord, Becca, Daniel Maynard, and M-Rock watching. Webwolf is joining them, and several others over in our locals family, and tons more watching. Leon wants to see Jordan Peterson on the stream. Victoria wants to see Father Mike. Amazing. We love to see it. I love Father Mike, and we definitely will be working on that for sure. Becca wants to see Allie Beth Stuckey on here. That would be really interesting. Keep dropping your suggestions because we definitely are booking throughout the month of June right now. So I want to know who you guys want to see and what types of conversations you want to see featured on the stream. That's what it's all about because we are one big happy family over here on the stream. Okay. As you guys continue to drop your guest suggestions and who you want to see throughout the month of June, let's jump right in and break down this story from the University of Wyoming. As I mentioned, I was not part of a sorority in college. I had pretty much no interest in joining a sorority in college. Where I went to school at Colorado State University, sororities just weren't very big. I think it was about 20% of the student body that participated in Greek life. I was so busy with my pre-med curriculum and student government and running the Turning Point USA chapter and my religious organization that I was a part of that I just really didn't have time to join a sorority, but it also never really piqued my interest as something that I wanted to spend my time doing. Had I gone to school somewhere like the University of Alabama or somewhere in Texas or somewhere in the South, I probably would have considered joining a sorority. if only because that's like the only way that you can meet people in many of those schools. But my social interactions in college were so much bigger than a sorority organization. So I did not pledge a sorority. My middle sister did not pledge to join a sorority. My baby sister, who goes to Texas Christian University, is in a sorority and has had a really wonderful experience so far. But I tend to hear really negative experiences about sororities. So I was what they call a GDI, a goddamn independent, GDI till I die, outside of Greek life. I went to one fraternity party on Halloween. It was like literally the worst night of my life. Talk about trashy and horrible and something I never ever would like to do again. I lasted for like 30 minutes in that house and just immediately checked out and left. But I've known many people who have been a part of this particular sorority that we're going to be talking about today, Kappa Kappa Gamma. It is one of the most well-respected and highly regarded sororities across the United States of America. And at least on my campus, Kappa was one of the best houses. Like if you got into Kappa Kappa Gamma, you were probably really beautiful, you were really smart, very socially connected. And it was hard to get in there. You had to have really great recommendation letters. And pretty much every school that I've seen have sororities. Kappa is typically a very well-regarded and highly esteemed sorority. So when I was scrolling through Twitter the other day and I saw this headline, I was just absolutely floored that this was happening, because most of the girls that I have known who have been sorority sisters under the umbrella of Kappa Kappa Gamma as a national organization or on their respective campuses have been pretty conservative. Pretty traditional, girly girl, kind of girl bossy type women that I have known join Kappa Kappa Gamma. And yet all of a sudden, of all places, not at the University of Washington, not at the University of Colorado in Boulder or CSU where I went to school, not in Chicago or New York or Brooklyn or Atlanta or Kansas City. No. In Wyoming, in Laramie, Wyoming, the Kappa Kappa Gamma chapter is now having to sue the national organization of Kappa Kappa Gamma because they have a trans sorority sister, brother, sibling, I don't know how we want to categorize that, who has been allowed to move into the house in Laramie, Wyoming. I've been to Laramie many, many times. I went to school about an hour and a half away from there. It's a beautiful campus. I love the state of Wyoming. I could easily live in Wyoming someday. They call Laramie Laradice, which is a very generous term for Laramie. It's not my favorite place in the state, but is a very cute little college town. And of all places in America, probably would be the last place on earth I would ever expect a conversation like this to be happening. But 4 of the sorority sisters from Kappa Kappa Gamma at the University of Wyoming and it was 3 of the sisters and their attorney joined Fox News the other day to sit down with Laura Ingraham and explain why they are suing, what the litigation is about, and just the overall situation where they feel uncomfortable and unsafe, even in their own home where they live now on their college campus in the first place. So before we provide any commentary or really break down the story, I thought it would be helpful to just go over the overall facts of the case and go from there. Anthony Davis, thank you so much for donating in our YouTube super chat. He asks, why is this an issue when you have women in fraternities? I actually have never heard of women in like actual men's fraternities. There are like business fraternities or religious fraternities and organizations that are co-ed, but I haven't heard a story about a woman joining a fraternity, so I would have to look into that. All right, so here we go. Let's break through the general topic of this situation and just the overall facts of the case before we provide a bunch of commentary. The headline here says, Wyoming sorority sisters speak out after lawsuit launched over transgender member. One sister says they are fighting for women's spaces. It's really interesting. Let's take a listen. Of course, we're going to get an ad. Classic. Anybody need new bedding? Okay. Can you guys hear this? Oh, it's so quiet. Hang on. Let me work on bringing this up. Hang on. We'll make it louder. Don't worry. Nobody worry. Okay. Let me know if you can hear this.
They don't do it in hopes staring at them silently.
You can't hear it at all? Bummer.
Exactly what happened at the Kappa Kappa Gamma house at the University of Wyoming, according to a new lawsuit. 6 sorority sisters.
Too quiet. All right, let's raise it up. Sorry, I don't know what's happening.
To allow a man, Artemis Langford, into their women-only organization because Langford says he's transgender. Now,
is this
what
better?
comes with being inducted into the sorority is unfettered access to the house, where about 40 college girls live. Now, a house where men, even fathers and boyfriends, are banned from being on the 2nd or 3rd floors because that's where the bedrooms and the communal bathrooms are. But Langford had access to all of it. According to the lawsuit, several times Langford had chosen to sit for hours on the couch in the 2nd floor common area. Langford stares.
Yeah, you guys are saying make it louder. I can't. It's
It's
okay. You know what? Let's just pause the video. Sorry, I know we're having a weird issue with that. We'll just read the article. It's no big deal. So, reading this article, 3 Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority sisters at the University of Wyoming and their attorney joined the Ingram Angle this week to speak out after commencing a lawsuit over the inclusion of a transgender member of their sorority, which is just crazy to me that we have arrived in this time. But we have also, LOL, I just moved, so I keep getting advertisements for furniture. Let's just roll with it. Welcome to a very grassroots stream. Host Laura Ingram reported the sorority member in question, whose name is Artemis Langford. It's a very fitting name for the situation. Allegedly would sit on the sofa in a common area watching the sisters walk by for prolonged periods of time. One allegation in the lawsuit reportedly stated that this trans sorority sibling was seen having an erection through his leggings when he was sitting on the couch watching the sorority sisters walk by. The national chapter of Kappa Kappa Gamma said it's aware of the litigation and it intends to address concerns about the situation through the legal process. While we cannot comment in detail on this pending litigation, it contains numerous false allegations. Kappa Kappa Gamma values diversity, here we go, and does not discriminate based on classes protected by state, local, or federal law. The Ingram Angle reached out to the University of Wyoming and the defendant in this situation. Actually, it's one of the defendants because I'm pretty sure the other one would be the national organization, but the trans sorority sibling in question, but did not get a response. One of the plaintiff's sisters, Hannah, said she and her fellow members were shocked by the alleged events and inclusion of Langford in the sorority. I can speak for myself saying I never would thought this would happen to me, especially in a sorority and a place for women. We were never told it was a unisex space. We joined under the impression that it was a single-sex organization. I think that's a really fair assumption to have about joining a sorority. Call me crazy, but when you join a sorority, you're not expecting that you're going to be living in a house with biological men or spending all of your free time with biological men who are getting erections sitting on the couch watching sorority sisters walk through the middle of the room, right? Or walk through the house. It's a pretty fair assumption, a safe bet to make that you're really going to be surrounded by girls, people who you call your sisters, right? I mean, the sisterhood of a sorority is not supposed to be gender neutral. It is supposed to be a single-sex organization. Another sister, Jalen, told the Ingram Angle that there have been many uncomfortable moments in the sorority house, saying the situation proves the importance of female-only spaces. That's why we're here today. We are fighting for the importance of women's spaces and what it truly means to be a woman. We were promised from the beginning that we would have a sisterhood, meaning only females, and our national sorority has failed us. Hannah said the national KKG chapter ignored the members and valued someone else over us in this uncomfortable situation. The lawsuit, filed in Wyoming federal court, named Ohio-based nonprofit Kappa Kappa Gamma fraternity as a nominal and direct defendant. Mary Pat Rooney, who is the president of the fraternity council of the Kappa Kappa Gamma fraternity in her official capacity, Kappa Kappa Gamma Building Company, a Wyoming nonprofit corporation, and Langford, so their trans sorority sibling. On the Ingram Angle, Ingram asked the sorority member's attorney, Cassie Craven, about the case, saying that the defendants must be relying on federal law here. I don't think Wyoming has state protections in this regard, but nevertheless, it looks like they're going to lean on the feds to win this case for them. I just don't see a way out for them, Craven replied. They want everyone to believe that being a woman is nothing more than wearing lipstick and the pronouns that you use. That sounds awfully familiar today. And we all know that it amounts to womanhood. It amounts to a lifetime of experiences. Their attorney alleged the defendants are seeking to deprive the plaintiffs plaintiffs of such experiences, while adding the plaintiffs have witnessed extreme preferential treatment towards the trans sorority sibling. It's very disheartening that when you are a 6'2", 260-pound man, you are treated as the victim in today's society, but the bylaws of the organization of KKG as a whole are very clear. This is an all-women's organization. So generally speaking, you have this small group of members of the sorority who have gotten together, agreed that they are not okay. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel safe. They don't feel represented. And they certainly don't feel like they are getting what they signed up for, what they paid for in joining their sorority with Kappa Kappa Gamma. And they are now suing the national organization of KKG, of Kappa Kappa Gamma, which to me is actually incredibly hopeful and enheartening, right? When you start to see so many people feel disheartened by men infiltrating women's spaces, which we've seen in a zillion different aspects of society today, and we'll talk about that in just a second, it's easy to lose heart and lose hope and think that everyone in my generation buys into the gender theory. Everything is how I feel that it is. Everybody's included in every situation, even if it's to the detriment or the lack of safety of women. Ideology that is taking over society, and that's just not true. There are stories just like this one, or the story of Riley Gaines, or countless other examples where people my age, young women my age, have said, we have had enough, and we are done putting up with this insanity, and we are going to stand up for objective truth and stand up for our rights as women. The really sad reality is, in order to get to that point of no return and realizing that you have had enough, you usually have to put yourself through some pretty shitty situations to get there. And that's exactly what these three incredibly brave sorority sisters have had to go through in the last several months. The New York Post reported this week that the University of Wyoming sorority sisters who are purporting the lawsuit say that they live in fear of the trans member of their sorority. A group of University of Wyoming sorority sisters who are suing their sorority have broken cover to describe how they live in constant fear in our home. What an incredibly sad reality for a college student after the hulking student has become physically aroused around them. The 7 women from the Kappa Kappa Gamma house have filed a lawsuit against the National Sorority Organization, its National Council president, and their sorority sibling, Artemis Langford, who is 21 years old, a 6'2", 260-pound trans student who joined the chapter last September. Langford, who is referred to under the male pseudonym Terry Smith in the suit, has been living outside the sorority house and was expected to move into the house in the coming year. However, the student, who is referred to as he and him in the lawsuit, still often stays for meals and attends events with the women. It's a weird, gut-wrenching feeling that every time I leave my room, there's a possibility that I will walk by him in the hall, said one of the sorority sisters on Megyn Kelly's show. It's a weird feeling to just know that I could run into him anytime. He has full access to the house, but this just goes to show that we need more women's spaces for that reason. Our house is our home, just like anyone's home. You go home at the end of the day to feel comfortable and relaxed in your own skin, and you can't do that knowing this individual has full access to your house. Another student said the situation is particularly distressing because some of her sisters have been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed and wants to feel safe inside their home. So some girls live in constant fear in their home, and our home is supposed to be a safe space, said the young woman, who, like the other students, was not identified by name. It is seriously an only female space. It is so different than living in the dorms, for instance, where men and women can commingle on the floors. That is not the case in a sorority house. We share just a couple of main bathrooms on the upstairs floor, she said. This is a photo of their chapter, including the trans sorority sibling encircled in red there in that photo. The lawsuit alleges that Langford stares at the women in this house without talking for hours upon hours on end. One sorority member walked down the hall to take a shower wearing only a towel. She felt an unsettling presence, turned and saw this man watching her silently. In another disturbing incident, the lawsuit alleges that this person has been physically aroused, watching members enter the sorority house and had an erection visible through his leggings. Other time, he has held a pillow in his lap, likely to hide the fact that he's getting an erection from watching these girls in the sorority walk into their own home. Craven told Kelly that there's been an exemption granted to him for his safety, but not for these young women. The individual still comes to the house, still engages in dinner, still sits in the chair and watches the girls. This is a photo of the sorority sister in question. One of the students said that she almost decided to leave the sorority because of the issue. Honestly, I don't understand why any of them are still in the sorority. I would have left immediately and demanded my money back, by the way, because it's unbelievably expensive to belong to Kappa Kappa Gamma. I would not give them a dime. I would have left and I would have sued for all of my money back, but that's just me. Maybe that's the GDI in me. She said, but I reconnected with fellow sisters and alumni and realized how important this organization is to me and to everybody else. And I refuse to allow subverting my rights as a woman to cater towards the comfort of a man. I will not let him take these opportunities away from me. Their lawyer said that trans students need their own spaces and deserve to be safe and protected, but it shouldn't come as a cost to female students. It's so obvious. It is so biologically fundamental to the core, and we can't allow, well, culture to be the arbiter of what sisterhood is. It's a shared experience, it's growth, it's development, and this experience is not doing this individual any justice whatsoever. So that's where I think the left gets it wrong. The plaintiffs allege that the National Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority, its national council president, and Langford, the man, all pressured the local chapter to breach sorority rules. They also allege that the sorority ignored official bylaws when inducting Langford, saying that it is a single gender organization. The executive director of the sorority has told AP that the lawsuit contains those numerous false allegations, but of course didn't identify what those numerous false allegations were, and that the sorority does not discriminate against gender identity. So one of the most prominent national sororities in the country, one of the most respected and well-regarded national sororities in the country, has admitted they are completely fine discriminating against the female members of their all-women's organization by allowing them to be sexually assaulted and sexually harassed, or a biological male to sit in their home, come into their home at any time of any day, and get aroused and have a visible erection by watching their sisters walk through the door. They're totally fine discriminating against those girls, but they will never discriminate on the basis of gender identity. Got it. That's super pro-women, super pro-feminism of us. Unbelievable and ridiculous, right? And as we've started to watch men take over the spaces of women in so many different capacities, it is hardly surprising to me that this is a reality in a sorority, even in a state like Wyoming to begin with. Last fall, as we were watching Bama Rush take over TikTok for several months on end, and we reacted to a lot of those videos on our live stream when we were doing that just on Getter in September, it was fascinating to watch a biological male who still identified as a male, he has since started identifying as a woman, named Grant Sykes, who has gotten quite the following on TikTok and many, many opportunities by following the lead of Dylan Mulvaney and copying the Days of Girlhood video series on his TikTok. When Grant was still a boy and was rushing for Alabama sororities, saying he didn't feel comfortable fitting in with fraternities, but felt more comfortable fitting in with sororities, everyone was shocked. Everyone said, this is crazy. This could never happen. This is unbelievably ridiculous. And I guarantee you, at some point before the end of their experience at the University of Alabama, Grant will end up in a sorority. But this isn't just happening at the most prominent, biggest sorority level viral TikTok moments. This is happening in Laramie, Wyoming, a place most people have probably never heard of in their entire life in the United States, where women are actually being harassed, where women have to sit through men having erections with them walking around in their own house or using the bathroom in their own house, to the tune of the national organization saying, sorry, we don't give a shit if you're uncomfortable by that. The only thing we refuse to discriminate against is your gender identity, not your actual biological gender, but your gender identity. And honestly, I don't know how many more times I can say that as a woman, an actual biological woman, I don't know where we go from here. I don't know what still has yet to be taken from women by men who claim that they are women in order for womanhood as a concept entirely to be erased as we know it. Men already are winning women's beauty pageants like the Miss Nevada competition for Miss America. Men already are infiltrating sorority houses and being welcomed into American sororities. Long gone are the pillow fights in your underwears days, girls, because instead, men would rather sit on the couch and get an erection watching you walk to the bathroom in your own house. Men are named NCAA Swimmers of the Year contestants and taking away championships in NCAA sports from women because they couldn't cut it in men's sports, so decided to move from number 460-something in the rankings for swimming to number 1 overnight by choosing to identify as a woman without going through any of the surgical transition to do so. Men are taking paid advertisement opportunities as content creators from women by organizations like Bud Light and Kate Spade and Tampax, just to name a few. Men are infiltrating women's bathrooms, including in school as children, and sexually harassing or sexually assaulting young women and putting their safety and their lives at risk. Men are now taking over motherhood because our society is comfortable dropping the word mother and replacing it with birthing person, including in our own federal maternal health guidelines, by the way. Like, our own government has allowed birthing people and men to take over the space of women. So, at this point, what else is left? Is there anything left that men still have to take over from women in order to erase womanhood entirely? Because as far as I can tell, every single thing that has belonged to women and is unique to women has already been infiltrated in modern society. So, where do we go from there? I don't know. I don't know if it's possible societally to go back to a time where biological gender and sex was actually appreciated and upheld. I don't know. When it's become so unbelievably normalized for a man to compete in women's sports, to use a women's bathroom, to join a women's sorority and move into the house, to give birth to a child, apparently, which is ridiculous, but they actually are suggesting that, by the way. We're not just talking about trans men. People are actually suggesting growing babies in biological men through womb transplants, which is so safe sounding, right? When we've allowed men to take over women's sports, when we've allowed men to be better at being women than women, how do we go backwards from there? I don't know. At what point does our society say enough or acknowledge that women have been erased? Because it's getting a little ironic to me that I sound like more of a feminist with every single passing day than the people who call themselves feminists. And I certainly wouldn't call myself a modern feminist, but that's where we are going, I guess, in modern society. At what point do we realize that, as Olivan says in our Getter chat, only in America is this thing happening? That America is leading a race to the bottom when it comes to supporting women's rights in actuality. We love to scream and chant and have our homemade posters and our bumper stickers on our car that this is the greatest country in the world to be a woman, but is it though? When we've all begun to acknowledge that men are better at being women than women? It's a fair question to start asking, but I do want to leave you with some hope today from the stream, because this seems hopeless, and it seems like everybody is buying into this, and that there is no ground left to recover, that there's no opportunity left for us to speak the truth or regain the truth or let the truth drive our culture moving forward. Surya says in our YouTube chat, I think right now more and more people are waking up to this mess, and I could not agree with you more. The more conversations I have with people about gender identity, about where men are taking over women's spaces, about chemically castrating or surgically castrating children when they end up wanting to detransition later on in life, the more gender theory gets crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier in society, the more I see people like these sorority sisters say, no, enough. We've had enough. The line has been drawn in the sand, and we have now stepped over that to the point that I'm no longer okay with this. It's why you see people like Riley Gaines continue to speak up and travel to college campuses all over America to make sure people understand the importance of protecting women in women's sports. It's why you see women like these sorority sisters sue the organization that they love and they want to be a part of to set a standard for the people who are going to come after them. It's why you see people like Chloe Cole, a detransitioner who was shoved into transitioning into a male as a teenager through hormones and surgery and everything, because that's what culture tells you to do, use her platform to encourage more young women struggling with their identity to embrace who God made them to be, not through, trying to transition everything that you are and your entire identity and fitting into modern societal standards of what it means to be cool, but embracing who you are at your very core, in your very DNA. It's why you see more and more people create social media accounts and raise their hand in their college classrooms and sue big organizations that are trying to take womanhood down, or even just acknowledge that we've gone into crazy land. Even if you do support aspects of the LGBTQ plus community, even if you would consider yourself to be a liberal, even if you would consider yourself to be an atheist, and you thought that all these Bible-thumping conservatives would be the downfall of America, but you're starting to realize you have a lot more in common with those people than you thought. I see these stories every single day, and I am filled with nothing but hope, not just because of a handful of stories, but because of the mass barrage of my generation embracing intellectual curiosity enough to start asking, how did we get here? And am I really happy in this situation? Yesterday, we talked about young people quite a bit and my opinion on the proposed idea to move the voting age to 25 and force 18 to 24-year-olds to prove that they're worthy to vote, which I stand vehemently against, and we had a lot of fun on the stream yesterday talking about that. So if you have any opinion whatsoever on that topic, would love to encourage you to check that out. But we acknowledge that right now in the United States of America, young people aren't proud of what society we are living in. Only 16% of Gen Zers would say and would report, according to a recent poll, that they are proud to live in America today, which at the outset sounds really sad and really disheartening and is scary to listen to, right? I mean, how is it possible that only 16% of my generation would say that we are proud to live in the country that we do? But when you think about it, living in the country that we do today means supporting this crap, means saying that it's okay to castrate children, means saying that a male who gets erections in a sorority house should be allowed to live in that house, or that a male should be able to beat women at their own sports or sexually harass and assault women in the bathroom. Being proud to live in America today would mean being proud of eating lab-grown meat instead of actual meat, or being proud to worship government over God, or being proud that we forced people to shut down their businesses or leave school for a disease that barely killed anyone our own age, and yet we're still forcing people to get experimental jabs in their arms based on science that was determined by one person that is now being completely backtracked several years later. I'm not so proud to live in a society like this, but my generation lacking pride for where America is at today gives me hope. It doesn't make me feel hopeless. It makes me realize that our generation is looking around at the state of affairs in America today, at stories just like this one on our college campuses or on our social media feeds, and realizing we want nothing to do with where we're at today. It's making us anxious, it's making us depressed, it's making us suicidal, it's driving us towards substance abuse, and it's just not based in reality or truth. And we as a generation want to go figure out what that truth is. Because we're tired of living a lie. We're tired of bowing down to the progressive mob that threatens to take away our jobs or cancel our digital platforms or kick us out of school if we don't shut up and get in line. We're tired of being told that men can be women and women can be men. We're over it. And we want something better, which is exactly why we are seeking out the truth and speaking it into existence for ourselves. So, on the off chance that any of those Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority sisters are watching this live stream or have a chance to see any of my content, we are cheering you on. We are proud of you. We are absolutely going to have your back, even in the midst of society coming after you, saying that you're transphobic or you're evil or you exclude people. Thank you for speaking up for truth. Thank you for doing what you can to stand up against the insanity and lunacy that has even taken hold at Kappa Kappa Gamma at the University of Wyoming. We will be praying for your journey, and thank you for being a part of our generation who's willing to go seek the truth and speak it into the world that is rejecting it rather than running away and hiding and just keeping your head down with the mob. We will be following this story extremely closely in the next several weeks, so we'll make sure that we keep going back and updating you as the lawsuit continues, but I am incredibly encouraged to see young women around my age continue to stand up for truth. All right, you guys, we got a lot of work to do at my house before my sister and her boyfriend come visit me. Before we go, I want to give a huge shout out to Public Square, who is the sponsor of today's stream. If you guys are new around here, you probably haven't heard me talk about Public Square, but it is an amazing organization that I'm so proud to work with. Public Square is an online marketplace of tens of thousands of small businesses that share your values, that are pro-family, pro-faith, pro-America, typically made in America items that they are selling or products that they are selling, and encompasses everything from food and coffee shops and doctor's offices to people to help you do your taxes and athletic wear companies and more. It is awesome to see them continue to grow. They recently became a publicly traded company this year, and so many of you who are small business owners have told me that you've added your small business to Public Square and gotten a huge response of a whole new customer base you never would have had otherwise. So I just dropped a link in our live chat for you guys to go add your business to Public Square. Please consider doing so. A lot of you guys already have, but I think it will be hugely helpful to you as a small business owner. Regardless of what your small business is, there's a place for it on Public Square, and we are so unbelievably grateful for the work that they are doing. I got one more link to drop in our live chat, and that is our post-stream Q&A that we are going to do over on Locals. You are all invited, and we have an exciting guest coming for this week's episode of Domus, which is our faith-based series that we put out exclusively to our Locals supporters every single week. Since everything on our schedule got pushed back a little bit this week, that episode is coming out tomorrow morning. But tonight I am sitting down with a new friend of mine from social media to talk about Eucharistic revival. And if you don't know what that means, that is people getting really excited and drawn back towards the Eucharist and the true presence of Jesus Christ in communion at church. It is a really interesting conversation, whether or not you believe that Jesus is actually present in communion at church. I think there's a lot to be said in this conversation and a lot of questions worth asking. So if you are at all curious, would love for you to tune into our episode. Again, that is available exclusively over on Locals and will be coming out tomorrow morning. And you can use that link that I just dropped in our live chat to join us for our post-stream Q&A that we have every single day. And we try to answer as many questions as possible. So all of that to be said, have an unbelievably happy Thursday. Before you go, hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever platform you are watching on right now. I am a totally independent creator, and it makes a huge difference to me and our reach and our ability to have these important countercultural conversations with every single one of you that hits follow or subscribe and shares this stream with somebody that you know. I'm so unbelievably grateful for each and every one of you, and we'll see you in just a few minutes for our locals post-stream Q&A. If you're not joining us, I will see you tomorrow for some extra fun talking about TikTok being banned in Montana, lab-grown meat destroying the environment, and some of the funniest videos that we've seen on the internet this week. Bye, guys. Have a fantastic Thursday night. Locals, don't go anywhere.